The night he bought her, the wind moved across the ranch like a warning that no one listened to. Dust rolled low over the earth, brushing the fences, whispering through dry grass that had learned how to survive without rain or mercy. The sky was stretched wide and empty, the kind of sky that made a man feel small if he let himself feel at all. Most men didn't, especially not him. Ethan Cole stood alone near the corral, his boots planted deep in cracked soil, his shadow long and broken under the lantern light. He was known across 3 counties as the Lone Rancher, not because he liked the name, but because it fit too well. He had no wife, no children, no hired hands who stayed longer than a season. Just land, cattle, silence, and a past he never spoke about. That silence had weight. It clung to him the way dust clung to his clothes, the way old regrets clung to the bones when the nights grew cold. People said he chose solitude. The truth was more complicated. Solitude had chosen him back. He had not planned to be at the auction. The place was loud in a way that felt wrong, voices sharp, laughter careless, money exchanged without thought. Men leaned on rails, chewing tobacco, judging with their eyes before they judged with their wallets. Horses were paraded like objects. So were people. That was when he saw her. She did not cry. She did not plead. She did not bow her head like the others who had learned that submission bought survival. She stood straight. Her wrists were bound, but her spine was unbroken. Her dark hair fell loose over her shoulders, and her face, quiet, unreadable, held something that unsettled the room. Not beauty in the easy sense. Something harder. Something earned, like a blade that had been sharpened by years of resistance. Someone near Ethan muttered, "That one's trouble." Another laughed, "Chinese girl, wild as they come. No man's been able to tame her." The word tame landed wrong in Ethan's chest. The auctioneer spoke fast, practiced, detached. He listed her like livestock. Age, origin, strength, temperament, difficult. That earned a few chuckles. Ethan did not laugh. He studied her eyes instead. They were dark, steady, and old in a way that had nothing to do with years. Eyes that had seen decisions made without mercy. Eyes that did not ask to be saved, because they had already learned that salvation often came with chains. The bidding started low. Some men wanted her for work. Some for pride. Some just to prove something to themselves. But the bids were cautious. No one wanted a problem that could not be controlled. Ethan felt something stir, an ache he had buried so deep he had almost forgotten it existed. Not desire, not pity, recognition. He knew what it was to be labeled difficult, to be called untamable, to be passed over, not because you lacked value, but because your value demanded more than people were willing to give. The final bid came from his own mouth before he fully realized it. Sold. The gavel hit wood. The sound echoed longer than it should have. Silence followed him as he signed the papers. People watched him with curiosity, some with disbelief. A few with quiet mockery. The lone rancher buying the girl no man could tame. They would talk about it for weeks. She was brought to him without ceremony. Up close, she smelled like dust and iron and something faintly floral, maybe soap from another life. She did not look at him at first. When she finally did, it was not with gratitude or fear. It was with assessment, as if she were measuring the weight of his soul the way men had measured her worth. He said only one thing. His voice was low, steady. "You don't belong to me." Her eyes flickered. "Just once. I paid for your freedom," he continued. "Not your obedience." She did not answer, but something shifted between them. A fraction of trust, or maybe just confusion. On the ride back to the ranch, she sat tall in the saddle, riding as if she had done so all her life. The horse tested her once, sensing uncertainty. She responded with calm authority, not force. Ethan noticed that. He noticed everything, though he pretended not to. The ranch greeted them with its familiar quiet. Wide land, open sky, a loneliness so deep it echoed. He showed her the small cabin near the creek, separate from his own. Gave her food, water, a blanket. "You're free to leave," he said. "Roads east, town's a day's ride." She studied him for a long moment. Then, in careful English shaped by distance and struggle, she spoke. "Freedom is not just road." Her voice was soft, but it carried weight, like water wearing down stone. "No," he said quietly. "It's not." That night, sleep did not come easily to either of them. For Ethan, the silence was louder than usual. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by questions he refused to ask himself. Why her? Why now? Why did her presence feel like a storm waiting to break? For her, the darkness brought memories she did not invite. Long journeys, lost names, hands that took more than they gave, promises that turned into cages. She lay still, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch, crickets, distant cattle, the low whistle of wind, and wondered what kind of man bought a person only to tell them they were free. Days passed. She stayed, not because she was trapped, but because something about the land felt honest. The work was hard, but clean. Fences needed mending, horses needed care. The rhythm of the ranch demanded effort, not submission. Ethan never raised his voice, never stood too close, never touched her without permission. He spoke when needed, stayed silent when words would have been an intrusion. Slowly, she began to speak more. Her name was Mei Lin. She had crossed oceans without choice, learned languages through pain, lost family to hunger and time and cruelty that wore many faces. Every man who claimed to own her before had tried to bend her will. Every man had failed. Ethan listened without interruption. When she finished, he said only, "You survived." "Yes," she replied, "but survival is not living." Those words lodged themselves in him. He watched her with the horses. She did not dominate them. She listened, felt their tension, matched their breath. Even the most restless stallion calmed under her presence. Men had tried to break those horses before. She did not break them. She met them. At night, they sometimes sat by the fire, not facing each other, but side by side, staring into the flames. Silence stretched between them, not empty, but full. The kind of silence that allowed truth to breathe. Ethan spoke of his wife once. Only once. She had died years ago. Illness. Too fast. Too unfair. He had buried his heart with her and built his life around not needing it anymore. Mei Lin did not offer comfort. She offered understanding. "In my village," she said softly, "we believe love does not die. It waits." He felt something crack then. Not break, just enough to let light through. But the world does not let peace last long. Word spread. Men came to the ranch under the guise of business. They asked questions that were not really questions. Offered money that was not really an offer. One man laughed and said, "You think you can tame her?" Ethan's answer was calm, dangerous. "She doesn't need taming." Threats followed. Rumors. A sense that something fragile was being watched by eyes that did not wish it well. Mei Lin sensed it before he said anything. "Trouble comes," she told him one evening. "It always does." He nodded. "I won't sell you." She met his gaze. "I know." That was when he realized the truth he had been circling for weeks. He had not bought her freedom. He had found his own. And loving her would cost him everything. The wind rose that night, stronger than before, carrying with it the promise of change. Of loss. Of fire and choice and consequence. Mei Lin stood at the fence, hair lifted by the air, eyes fixed on the horizon. Ethan watched her from a distance, knowing that the hardest battles were not fought with fists or guns, but with the courage to open a heart that had learned to survive without